Welcome back to another episode of Joel's Mind Podcast, where we talk about becoming a better version of you. Lo and behold, it has been some time, people. First and foremost, I just want to give thanks and gratitude to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. God, thank you for what you've done for me and my family, for the man that you've raised me to be, for the obstacles you've placed on my journey, and the people that have helped curate Joel's mind, metaphorically speaking, and quite literally. Second, I just wanted to say thank you to my beautiful wife for always encouraging me and supporting me and loving me, and also helping me grow. There's pieces of me that would not be here today if it wasn't for her. Thirdly, I want to thank my parents. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Joel Ortega. I am the son of Sandra and Romero Ortega. I am the brother to Daniel Ortega and the husband to Lupita Ortega. And last but not least, I want to thank everybody that has been repping and rocking with your boy from day one, and everyone that's been a newcomer, and everyone that's just been following along the journey of Joel and Lupita and Joel's mind, and everything that has transpired over the years to get us here. To think it's been 5 years since I first launched my first episode, and life has happened in some beautiful ways and some not so beautiful ways that has kind of got in between me being able to be consistent with Joel's Mind Podcast. However, it has helped me tremendously in my overall growth and my creative side, and also just reminding myself when I'm in a rough patch, what is it in this particular moment, in this particular experience? How is this helping me become a better version of me? This has been instilled in me at such a young age, and it's been instilled by my parents, and I've observed my parents do just that. And so it's something that I hold dear to me. I'm very passionate about, something that I love to speak about, because we all have a story. We all are main characters in our own world, in our own story. And it's beautiful to sometimes be the side character or be someone that just happens to partake in the story. And so I'm eternally grateful for everyone that has been following along and has been anticipating the comeback of Joel's Mind Podcast. And more importantly, everyone that has been super supportive and also very understanding and just nothing but love every time we've talked about Joel's Mind Podcast. And so if it wasn't for the belief, and not just myself, but if it wasn't from the belief of other people, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't be doing this. But with that, I just want to say thank you. And it's been some time. I think the last episode I've released was about 2 years ago. Probably should have that written down, right? But this episode, this monologue here is going to be raw. It's definitely going to be edited, because I'm sure I'm going to have to edit a couple of ums and hums and long pauses. But with that being said, unscripted, off the top of the dome. There's been some questions. Shout out to everyone that's participated, my Instagram polls, and just engagement. It really helps. It helps to know that there's people still looking and watching from afar, but also supporting. But with that, it also just helps create some engaging content. So I really appreciate everyone that does engage with me. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you want to follow and you want to engage with me, that's something I do more actively on Instagram than I do any other my other social medias. However, that'll be a work in progress. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into some of these questions. All right. First and foremost, where has Joel been? Oh, good one. Great question. Where the heck have I been? I'm actually going to start with another question. Sorry. What can we expect from this comeback? I'm going to answer that one first. And the reason for that is because it'll help explain where I've been. What you can expect from Joel's Mind, and from me, the creator, the producer, the writer, the editor, the marketer, the publicist, all that. What you can expect from me and from Joel's Mind podcast is you can expect some more transparency. There's some things that I don't necessarily share, and I share a lot, but there's some things that I want to break that barrier down. And I feel like that's not who I am. I'm transparent. I'm an easy person to read. I like to keep it authentic. I like to keep it real. I grew up believing that's what this world was about, but I also grew up seeing people that I believed were real. And it's in that realness and the authenticity I find myself to be my truest self. And there's been things I've been holding back. There's been things that I haven't been wanting to share because I don't want things to overlap and cause some unbalances or cause some demands or requests. So we're going to stick a pin in that and we'll come back to that. What else you can expect from Joel's Mind podcast? You can expect more consistency, obviously, and we'll gotta dive into that a little more, where I've been. But when I first started this podcast, my goal, I was super motivated. It was early, I think 2019, going into 2020, right before COVID hit. And it was something that I was really motivated to do. I had a balance. I had this void in my life, not because I was needing fulfillment, but like literally I had time in my life. I had more, I have an open schedule, if you will, to be able to devote more time to my podcast. And I was super motivated. And so when I first started with Joel's Mind podcast, I started with the goal of having weekly episodes, not truly understanding what creating and recording and editing an episode truly takes. And so with that, it was a rocky start. It was something I had to learn and I had to really adapt, and I really had to just think on the fly, but also adjust. I'm glad I pushed myself to that extent, but I am also not in that position, and I do not have that much time available. And I also am not willing to drop everything for this podcast. Wow, that actually hurt me to say that. Damn. Speaking of transparency and authenticity, but yes, and I don't mean that in a, I guess in a way of not being grateful for this opportunity and everyone that supports me. I really appreciate those that want to hear what I have to say, because I have a lot to say, but more importantly, those that actually, just, a supporter of Joel's Mind podcast. So with that, it's not that I don't want to do this, but I also don't want to give you a half-assed version of me. You don't deserve that. You deserve a better version of me. You deserve a consistent version of me. And I can't keep giving you that half-assed version, because it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel some type of way, because at the end of it, I'm letting you down, but I'm also letting myself down. And then things just get weird, because it's just a weird balance. You know what I mean? And that's what I have learned over the last 2 years since I've stepped away, was what does it really mean to have a balance in Joel's life and in Joel's mind? Because that's where I find myself regressing to some of the behaviors that I used to cope and used to distract myself and redirect myself. And I've learned those behaviors a little more so now. And I've been able to identify some of those peaks of like stress, but also those peaks and those valleys as well, where I understand I'm starting to go into a place where I'm like, I don't want to do anything, which I wouldn't say is not common. That's very common. And so, but I also like understand who I am and where I want to go and what I want to do and what commitments I already have set for myself. And so in that is also something that is a driving factor of like consistency. Like I have to take care of me so I can give you a version of myself that y'all deserve. But more importantly, that's able to show up, because I can't keep not showing up. And if I am showing up half-assed, like, it's a lose-lose to some extent, depending on how and who you're talking to, right? But it's just, I've learned that in this balance of like Joel's Mind podcast, getting married, renovating, having a duplex, and just being a landlord, and also having a full-time job, being a son, being a brother, being a friend, all those things matter to me. All those things matter to me. And so I have to make sure I'm taking care of this guy before I start pouring into these other buckets, because if I don't, then you get the half-ass version of me. And none of those people or responsibilities deserve that. I'm a person of growth, and I want to grow, and I want to excel, more importantly, in those particular areas, but more importantly, on some of those new journeys that I'm going to be having come near the future, Lord willing. With that being said, what you can expect of me, I will be posting 2 episodes a month. And so that is something I have sat with and I've thought with. Honestly, part of me is like, that's not enough, bro. It's nearly not enough to keep the engagement going and people locked in. But the other side of me is like, Joel, let's start with 2 episodes a month. If you can do that and you can knock it out of the park, great. And if you can't do that and you're struggling to do that, but you're accomplishing the goal, also great. You're doing what you say you're going to do, but with the understanding that it sometimes can be challenging to even do that. So I got to figure out my baseline, but this is what I want to commit to you guys, and this is what I want to commit to myself, is 2 episodes a month. If I can do that, and I can do that consistently, then we can talk about upping up. Also, if you guys get that engagement going, you know what I'm saying? You'll want to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on even TikTok. I need to get back on my TikTok and, reach out to the people out there, because, it'd be nice to get some fresh input, and TikTok is not something I've really dove into. So with that, you can expect authenticity, some more transparency, more consistency, and you can expect a business segment. Now, this is something I've been wanting to do. I've been talking to some people over the last couple of years and about doing this, and finally, we are here. I want to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but I've been wanting to do a business segment where I interview business owners and I talk about them and their growth, what it took them to get where they've gotten. And I'm just really excited for it. And so my goal is to have at least 10 interviews. If we do more than that, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But my goal is to have 10. And right now I have 5 that I want to share with you guys today. And with that 5, I want you guys to help me lock them in and get them scheduled and interviewed. Not necessarily scheduled unless someone wants to become an intern of Joel's Mind. But I have 5 business owners that I'm really excited. I obviously know who they are. They know me. We've may or may not have discussed it, but I know there's some people that would be open to this. But with that, these 5 businesses that I want to interview, first and foremost, my boys at Central Washington Pool and Spa. Shout out to them. Shout out to C-Dub. Shout out to the C-Dub crew. And shout out to Cascade Caldera Spas. If you've been following along, I've been in Cleellum this summer, holding it down up there in the showroom, getting things kicked off and running. So first and foremost, my guys, we've been talking about it for some time. Time is finally here, baby. Let's schedule something and let's lock it in. Number 2 business that I want to interview. By the way, no importance on numbers, but we're going off the top of my head. Number 2, Miss Angelica Reyna Mora. Reyna Floral Arrangements. Girl, I would love to interview you. I would love to talk about your journey and your growth. So don't be shy. Let's make it happen. Number 3, my boys at Vida Health Bar. We've been talking about it for a long time, and now the time has come. My brothers, it's time to suit up. Not necessarily, but it's time to step into Joel's mind and let's talk some business and let's talk about your guys' growth. And also congratulations. It's been 7 years since you guys been serving us Yakutonians. So thank you so much for your guys' smoothies, for the life that you give us through your smoothies. So you already know, let's find some time and let's schedule it up. Number 4, my brother, we've also discussed this a handful of times. You're also a very busy man, so totally understand. You also have another store opening up. So with your new store coming in around the corner, I would love to invite you onto Joel's Mind. My brother, thank you as well. Every time we step in, my wife and I, it's nothing but good vibes and good conversation. You also are born and raised in Yakima and experience a lot of what us Yakima kids experience. So having your mind connect, having a little bit of your experience and your journey along the way and everything you've gone through. Would totally love to hear what's going on in Dimitri's mind, as well as in Alignment Co. New store opening in Tri-Cities. Number 5, I like to challenge myself, and this is one I have not discussed with anyone at all, but I would love to tap in and lock in this interview in if possible. But the owners at Volution, I've been going to Volution for, I don't know, I think the last 5 years, 4 years, sometime like that. I love what I've seen. I've seen so much growth in Volution. I've seen so many gyms open up. I've seen cycles of people go in and out of Volution, and it's just awesome to see meeting community members in there, but also seeing friends and family show up in Volution. Jim, if you're down for it, my brother, hit me up. I would love to lock something in and just tap in and pick your brain about the growth and obviously the new gym that's opening up in Terrace Heights. I can't wait to step into it. I can't wait to see it. There's going to be saunas. There's going to be 140, I believe, parking spaces, which honestly, I'm more excited about that than anything. Like, we all know when it comes to going to the gym, especially around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, it just gets crazy. But that just tells you got committed people going to the gym. So with that being said, if we could lock it in, Volution, let's make it happen. Jim, I'd love to get to know you, and I'd love to pick your brain here on Joel's Mind. So with that, that is my 5 business owners I would love to tap into and record something and do an interview. Joel's Mind podcast is talking about becoming a better version of you. In this, I would love to tap into those business owners and learn their journey and learn how they become better versions of themselves, or more importantly, how they needed to grow in their business for it to be successful. With that being said, that is only 5. So this is where I'm asking you, please go ahead and comment down below. Tell me who you'd love to see step into Joel's Mind and talk about their business, whether it's successful, whether it's on the barely, hitting the freaking tarmac and just about to take off, or if it's a failed business. No shame in the game. Whether you win or lose, there's always going to be value, and there's always going to be a lesson learned in that. So please tap in, comment down below. Let me know who you'd love to see step into Joel's Mind and hear a little more about their story and their journey of where they've gone and how they became the person they are today. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's go back to that question. Joel, where the heck have you been? All right. So first and foremost, your boy got married. Your boy is officially married. He's completely off the list, been off the list for some time, but we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary back in June, leading up to our wedding. It was an experience, to say the least. For those of you that have been following along, you've seen some of the renovations that we posted, and honestly, that was just the snickle fritz. Like, that did not even encapsulate a lot of the things that we did, but we had a full-blown renovation while we were planning our wedding. And one thing I've learned is balance. And how do I balance my responsibilities, what's priority, and what deserves my time and attention? And unfortunately, Joel's Mind podcast had to take the back seat. I did my best to try to keep people involved somehow, some way. That was me trying to do my best to just kind of keep you in the loop of where Joel's been at. But with that, Renovation's done. It's locked in. We have tenants in there. It's been good. It's been great. And it's been just a huge growing process for both my wife and I. And I just also internally grateful for the opportunity to grow, to really push myself, to really learn new tricks in the trade, especially with construction. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I love to do things with my hands. You'll see me talking with my hands because I'm a kinesthetic learner. You can't see it, but I'm voguing over here. But with that being said, I really had the first opportunity to really dive into do some things I've never done before. With that, it required me to do a lot of research, to watch a lot of YouTube videos. They're super deceiving. And then put that into practice and learn through trial and error. So the renovation took us, we started in November. We finished the main construction up in June, and we listed in August. And there was just like a tad bit of detail that we had to finish up before actually having our tenants move in. So I would say about 9 months, maybe 10, more or less. It took us 10 months for a full renovation, from painting walls to replacing cabinets, to replacing the floor, to replacing heaters, to replacing completely redoing the bathrooms. So yeah, it was a whole 360 job. Learned so much, got a lot more confident with tools. I actually was able to buy a lot more tools, but more importantly, it really pushed Lupita and I in a way that we honestly I ain't gonna lie, it just fucking broke us. It broke us mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. It was a lot, but I'll save that for another episode. But with that, that took a lot of this time back in 2024. We started in November 2023, wrapped it up in August 2024. But we also had our wedding in June 2024. So after that, it was mainly a celebration for us, was our wedding. It was like a celebration of like, hey, we decided to still get married, but also like we're finally done with this renovation and we can really move forward with our lives. And then with that, we had some family stuff going on. For those of you who've been following along, and everyone that has been super supportive and loving to my father. My father had been battling cancer since 2019, and leading up into 2024, actually into July, he had a really, honestly, just an insane surgery that required him to be in Seattle for 2 weeks for recovery, and then just needing help. And so I don't want to, talk too much about my dad's business. One day, hopefully he can share that himself if he likes. But, just to kind of highlight, because I have shared, but just to kind of highlight where I've been and really like focusing that time, just really being there. And it was in that moment, like those times, choosing, my father, choosing my family, choosing to be a son, and that was something that was really important to me. Obviously, like, it was a really intense surgery, but dude, man, my dad has not yet failed to show me how strong a man he is. Like, I am internally grateful to be able to witness my father overcome these kind of challenges. But more importantly, I'm just so grateful to be able to still be there and help and support in that time. Because I know if I had a different career, maybe I wouldn't have been able to be there the way that I was there. And also my brother, shout out my brother, being able to not only be a father himself, but also still be a son. And I've said it many times before, and I keep saying it, I'm surrounded by greatness, and I expect nothing less of myself. And so all that comes with growth. It all comes with growth. That doesn't always mean you're winning. Sometimes it means you're losing. Sometimes it means you're winning. But sometimes, most of the time, it just means you're going through something that you have overcome. And I can say that with my family, we've overcome a lot of different things. And I'm just super grateful for them because it's just a constant reminder of who I am and where I come from. And it helps me to keep going. We're back with episode 1. And you guys already got me rolling. So with that, the year before that, and this is where that transparency comes from, I took a job, and I took a job that requires me to be in the public. And this job, I was just really grateful for, and I didn't want to mess this up. It was something that I stood 10 toes down, and I told myself, like, if I get this job, I get this role, like, Joel, you're gonna have to put this on the back burner for some time so you can really understand what this role takes. Because I'm gonna be honest, when I read that job description, not that I wasn't qualified for it, but there were some things on there. There were some words that I wasn't quite understanding. But now I truly understand the role that I'm in, and that's after being in it for 2 years, going on 3, hopefully longer than that, Lord willing. But with that, I took a role, and that's something that I've tried to keep separate: my work life, my personal life, also Joel's Mind podcast, whatever you want to label this particular life. But it's one thing I found it difficult for myself, was trying to keep those two separate. And the reason for that is because I would hate for my job to come to me and be like, Joel, hey, you said something, or you did something on your podcast that the agency doesn't approve of, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I would hate to be told that you can't do that. I would hate to be told that you can't do one thing or do the other or whatever. I do not want to be told what I should or shouldn't do, or how or shouldn't, whatever, spend my time on my own. But with that, I'm glad I've taken the time to really sit back and really, focus my time in my work. And the reason for that is because, like, I also understand that there's a responsibility that I have, whether I want it or not. And that responsibility is understanding what I am saying and understanding how I am carrying myself in both my work life and my personal life. Because let's be honest, if I'm on here talking crazy, saying some crazy things off the wall, call me Kanye West, I may not have my job, but I'm nowhere near Kanye West's, ether. Like, that mofo, he can say whatever he wants, and there's millions of people that are going to disagree, and there's a million people that are going to agree and support him no matter what. I'm not there. Also, I'm in a role that it matters to me how I present myself, and I present myself authentically, of course, but also in a professional way. Like, there's just two different, versions of ourselves that we're going to present. And probably more than that, to be honest, with our friends, with our family, with our coworkers, with our bosses. You get the gist. What I'm trying to say is, it has been difficult for me to really balance Joel in these positions. And I don't like to necessarily show face or put on a mask. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm faking the funk. Obviously, there's my customer service voice. There's a professional side of me. But there was something that I felt like, because I was intentionally keeping things separate, that I felt challenging for me, and it weighed on me. And I just, the things that I do, what I do in my work life and what I talk about in my podcast, it aligns really well. So that, I think that also is something that I've kind of dealing with is like, I don't want to necessarily combine the two, but I don't necessarily want to not have them be talked about. And so with that, I'm going to share what I do, but I will not share exactly where I'm at, because I do believe in boundaries, and I do believe in having some type of confidentiality. So with that being said, I am a community prevention specialist. I do drug prevention with youth and their families within my area and where I'm at. And it's a job that I do not take for granted. I get to work with students. I get to work with families. I get to be a part of empowering their voices, but more importantly, I get to work with my community very closely. And so for those of anyone that I've mentioned above just now and you're seeing this for the first time, what's up? You're probably not surprised, but at the same time, I may not have mentioned it. But now here I am. And so again, there's some boundaries I'm going to keep, but for the most part, what I do overall is I help develop strategies, develop core values, different trainings, different workshops, different opportunities to really talk about substance use amongst youth with their parents, with their trusted adults, amongst themselves. I've had my fair share of experience that I can speak on when it comes to substance use. And so this is actually a perfect segue into kind of what you can expect, going back to the other question, here in the future. I've been sober since I have turned 29, with 2 exceptions. And I have been living a life of sobriety for the last 2 years, 3 years, 2 years. Sorry, I'm doing math in my head, and it's not mathing. But with that, so the irony, the alignment of this speaks to me so much. And it's going to have to be its own episode. But I will say this. The alignment of me choosing to be sober had nothing to do with my job. I didn't even have this job when I decided to choose sobriety. But going into this, I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason. I'm also a strong believer in our good Lord up above. And I do believe that he works in mysterious ways. And I believe this was one of those callings of like, hey, live a life of sobriety because it's going to matter when that time comes. And so with that being said, that time came, and I now get to look back at some of my behaviors and some of the situations that I put myself into. Also, some of the coping mechanisms that I developed at a very young age. And now on another side of things, of being like, hey, I get to experience life through a sober lens. And so that's all I'm gonna say, because I want you guys to come back and listen to an episode of me talking about sobriety. But with that is what I do. That is my 9 to 5. I believe in the work. It's been a lot. It was a completely new world for me. I have my degree in psychology. I went to grad school for a quarter in mental counseling. And so the prevention side of things wasn't necessarily a field that I had tapped into, or honestly just quite didn't really understand. But in that, I am now in that field, and I'm part of that community of prevention workers. And honestly, it has been a blessing. It's been challenging. It has been something that I do enjoy, but also something that, man, there's days where there's hard days. But the reward of it is just amazing. So with that being said, that is something I have been reframing to speak on, but more importantly, also one of the reasons why I did put this on the back burner, because I knew I needed to put my time and attention into this role, so that way I actually did a good job, and I knew what was at stake. And it was not just a job that I just showed up and clocked in and clocked out. It was something more. Like, I really had the opportunity to step up and really create some awesome collaborations and make an impact in the community. And I'm gonna be honest, it's nice to say that I've been able to do that. But more importantly, I've been able to do that with a team of community prevention specialists, and it's just been awesome. So it's just been an experience for me, and I am super grateful for it. With that being said, I digress. That is where I've been. Also, just going through the woes of life and really pushing myself. And part of the sobriety was one of the many reasons, was to push myself. I will not stand before you and stand in front of you. And I will not tell you to do anything that I have not done myself or have tried it in one way or another. That's one thing I do believe in, being real and being authentic. I cannot sit here and tell you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. obviously there's, you know, it's subjective, but with that, I cannot talk about growth and self-development if I'm not doing that myself. And so I've found these last several years to be able to really do that. And so I've been doing that. So let's go to the next question. I do appreciate everyone that swiped up to just leave some happy comments in support of being happy that I'm coming back. So it makes me glad to be able to read your guys' comments and feel your love and support. Let's go ahead and start with this question. How long have you been growing your hair? And let the barber fade you up. Osito, my brother, thank you for being on day one. I appreciate you, my guy. It is, I think, going on 4 or 5 years now. I started growing my hair because my dad started battling cancer. We didn't know exactly what was going to happen. But I wanted to donate my hair to him if he needed it. But his hair actually grew back stronger than what it was before. So I will like to, at some point I will donate my hair. I know there's hair for locks, but I grew my hair out for that reason, was because my dad was going through his chemo and his treatments. And at the time, we really didn't know what to expect. And, you know, I know a lot of people, you know, are very brave and courageous to cut their hair with their relatives or whoever. And there was just something about me growing my hair to donate it to him that spoke to me. And that's why I started growing it. But it's been about 4 or 5 years. I got it nice and braided for you guys. You know, nothing but the best for this little comeback. But I enjoy it. It's the first time I ever grew my hair. My mom taught me at a young age to keep it a fresh, clean look, to always be presentable. So I never actually grew my hair. It was cochino if I did. And, you know, that was just the way I was raised. But I really like it. I'm digging it. The glow up has been real. When's the next episode? Podcast is happening right now. However, I think the next episode, I'm going to go ahead and tap into sobriety a little more. So you can expect the next episode to be on sobriety. So this question, great question. I got a million questions, but I guess the main thing would be, I guess, how do you keep yourself going, even on the hard days? Great question. Now, those hard days, they be hard. And if it's one thing I've learned that I used to think, and I used to tell myself, I used to think I was being lazy. I used to think I was not doing enough because I was not being able to move, quite like literally. There's been times, especially when I was in college, when I was by myself, I didn't have parents, I didn't have my brother, I didn't have like my close friends, only like my friends that I met in college. I used to think I was being really lazy, but I learned that those hard days, they be really hard. And in my mind, was really negative. I'd had this self-negative talk and not really validate what was really going on in my world and my life at the time. And it was new. Everything was new. Learning how to take care of myself, learning how to go to bed, learning how to cook with a limited kitchen, living on campus in a dorm, and learning how to be responsible. It just was so different from going from like living at home, where like it's your safe place, it's your comfort, and going to just a new town and not feeling the same feeling. For me, I didn't feel that. I wasn't as adaptable as some others were able to. But with that, I learned that when those hard days are hard, sometimes I got to be like, yo, today's a hard day. Today's been a day. Today is one of those days where I'm just getting hit in the chin, whether it's my mistake or whether it's just, you know, things I'm getting feedback that I'm like not necessarily ready for, or I'm being told like, yo, you know, you didn't hit the mark, or, hey, actually, we need you to step it up because someone else didn't hit the mark. Also, life, you know, in those moments where it's like, it's not so structured. It's like, yo, hey, you get a call and it's like, your dad's battling cancer. Your dad's been diagnosed with cancer, and we can't say how long, like how much he lives. that shit's hard. That shit's like, that's life hard. You know what I'm saying? In those instances, I've really leaned into my faith. I've been spiritual ever since I can remember. You know, I grew up going to church, in and out of church. But I'm a big believer in faith. I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that to bash on anyone else and their beliefs. If you believe in something else, I respect that, and I'm happy that you do. And if you don't, I also respect that too. There's no need for me to force anything on anyone in terms of faith. So with that being said, I really lean into my faith on those hard days. I really look into those lessons in those hard days. Like, what is this teaching me? And sometimes it's not always a lesson that you're going to learn. Sometimes it's just experience. Sometimes it's just kind of having to go through just life. Like, one example I could give you right off the top of my head is I was working at a job, and it was a very demanding job. I was working like at least 50 hours a week. With my time there, I had a coworker pass away. She was younger than me. Rest in peace, Elizabeth Ramirez. She was just really young. And we, you know, when you're working with people, and first and foremost, I just want to say, when people say their coworkers are like family, no, they're not. You do not hang out with your family as much as you hang out with your coworkers, because you are forced to be with your coworkers 8 hours a day, right? More importantly, you also have to deal with some shit that you just wouldn't deal with your family or your friends. So I personally believe you should give your coworkers the title that they have, which is a coworker, because they get to experience you in a version of you that other people don't quite get to experience. And so with that being said, my coworker had passed, and she was very young, especially where we're at with our job and like our perspective and the way we felt with our job. We both wanted to leave. And so it just was one of those examples of like, I couldn't ask myself the lesson that was being taught there. I just had to feel, and I felt sad. I was heartbroken. I was just like, man, I can't believe that she's gone. Literally worked a whole 40-hour week with her the week before and the week before that. And I'm going to go in on Monday knowing that she is not going to be coming in that door at all. And so what do I do when life gets hard, and what keeps me going? I just remember the meaning I have for myself and my life and what that means to me. And I've been able to define it. And I want to make this world a better place. And I knew that at a very young age, and I'm very blessed to know that. And I want to let you know now, as a man that's 31 years old, and if you don't have that, you don't have that definition, you don't know what that is, you're totally fine. That's totally okay. Whatever that day comes and you know what that meaning is, or what you feel like it might be, that is something that reminds me that I must keep going. I have to keep going. And I choose to keep going because there's so much more out there, and these moments that really can be devastating or can be life-changing. It's not a matter if I can go through it or if I can overcome it or if this will pass. It's just a matter of when it does. And so in those hard days and those hard times, I just remind myself that this too shall pass. This too is going to be a part of my experience. This is also going to be a part of my journey. Whether I get over it, get under it, get around it, get through it, or if I just sit with it, it's going to be a part of something that I can look back and remind myself. Remember when you were going through this, and this is how you felt? The walls were closing in. The world locked you out. But now look at you. Look where you're at and look where you're standing. Those hard days, somehow, some way, are reminders in the present day that there's still much more life to live, and there's still much more to learn and grow. that's how I get through my hard days. Our last question. I say this question for last because this is a great question. How or what have you felt has helped you overcome depression? Boy, that's a good question. I have battled with depression. And now that I'm older, now that I've gone through school, now that I can, relate to a definition of depression, some symptoms, also understand what the diagnosis of a major depressive disorder. What has helped me through my depression, because I've experienced it throughout my journey, and I know I'm going to experience it some more, is knowing what Joel looks like when he's depressed. Understanding those things that put Joel in a depressive state. Knowing what triggers it, knowing what pushes me into it, and knowing what keeps me there. Those are all things that I've learned after winning the battle with depression. And sometimes it doesn't always look triumphant. Sometimes it looks like a soppy boy crying with tears. But what I think I've learned with my depression is, for me, I have to keep moving. And sometimes it gets counterproductive where I'm moving too much. But like when I'm really in my depressive state, I will not leave my room. I will not leave my bed. I will call out of work. I will call in sick. I will stay home. I will avoid my responsibilities. I will not talk to anyone. I will not do anything that makes me happy. I will not do anything that gets me going and makes me feel happy. That is what my depression looks like. I am stuck. I am in a freeze state. My mind and my body are separated. My mind wants to do one thing. My body wants to do another thing. And somehow, some way, I cannot get them to be in alignment. And it's through this battle of depression that I've understand and been able to really conceptualize like what I'm saying right now. So what's helped me is understanding what that looks like, but also asking for help. It's taken me some time, and I am super grateful for having a mother that's very prying and is, oh my goodness, she's just so great at being a mom, and also great she's also great at reading people. And she can tell you how you feel without having to tell her how you feel. And so I've been forced in a loving way to talk about things, which I've learned that has been a skill set that has pushed me to talk more and be a little more outspoken than some or most. But in that, I've learned that I can't always go to my mom. My mom's not always going to be there. And so I've had to learn and find the courage to ask for help in different ways, whether that is calling a friend. And I'm going to be honest, like, calling a friend can look like, hey, do you want to hang out today? Calling a friend doesn't necessarily have to be talking about what's going on. There's been times where I've actually literally called a friend and I'm just like, hey, I'm having a bad day. Can I just come over? We don't need to talk about anything, but I am a mess right now. And gratefully, was able to do that. I was able to have friends that held space for me. And that goes such a long way. So asking for help, having a support group, having a support system, more importantly, again, no one's going to cure your depression. I would say it's one thing I can tell you right now, no one's going to cure it. You can't cure it. I do believe God really is capable of doing that, but I don't think he's going to do that. And I think there's reasons for him not doing that or her doing that. And the reason for that is because it's by design. We are designed to feel these things. We are designed to experience some of these things. Our body's having a reaction to what is happening around us. And so understanding that you don't need to be fixed. And it sounds so backwards, but there's nothing wrong with you. It is okay to have depression. It is okay to have anxiety. It is okay to feel not okay. But more importantly, understanding that it's going to be a part of your life. What's really helped me is going to therapy. I remember the first time I called a therapist, I hung up. Of all people, Joel going to school, become a mental therapist, just about to graduate an undergrad for a psychology degree. Who would have thought that same person going to school for that field called and hung up? And that just goes to show that it doesn't matter who you are, asking for help is hard. It's not easy. It's something that we all can work on. But understanding when you are asking for help, give yourself that grace and give yourself that acknowledgement. Like, you know what? I'm still depressed, but I called today. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucking dub, baby. That's a dub. You're like, you can't, I mean, you obviously, you still could be sad about it in the most respectful way. I say that, but like, you can obviously still not be completely cured. Understanding that you can still be like, you know what? I did do a good thing today, even though I do feel like crap still. And that's what I've learned. Taking it day by day also is super important, especially depending where you're at in your spectrum of your depression. Because if you're at that point of immobile and like your responsibilities, I don't know who's taking care of them, but it's not me. If you're in that state, like you really have to take it day by day. You really have to utilize your support system. You have to utilize the resources around you and just understand, maybe you may not use them, but understand where you can get those resources if you need them. It's also super important to help you because it's a war. You know what I'm saying? You can win a couple battles, you could lose a couple battles, but the war is going to go on. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I articulate it. That's how I felt with my depression. I safe to say I haven't felt that kind of depression in a while. But what I try to do is I try to keep that at bay by like doing things that I know I enjoy, which is creating. I haven't tapped into something like this until I started Joel's Mind podcast. And it helped tremendously because there's times where like I literally would just throw the camera on and I just start talking to the camera and didn't post it, didn't share anything. Just that was for me. That's something that's in the vault. You know what I'm saying? And it just helped me have a creative outlet that allowed space for my other thoughts and ideas to come. It wasn't work. It wasn't relationship. It wasn't responsibilities. It was like, hey, what do you think about coming up with the podcast? Like, what would you do? How would you present yourself? What would you use for your equipment? How would you even do that to begin with? Like, having a hobby, it's a lifesaver. It's also a money spender. But with that, like, I highly encourage anyone that's going through any type of journey of depression or any type of mental illness, whatever you want to call it. I don't even really want to call it that, but like think of it like an illness. Like sometimes you get sick, right? Sometimes you get a cold. Sometimes you get the flu. And those both suck. Those both take time. Those take recuperation. Like if we treated our depression, our anxiety like we treated our flu and our sickness, like I think this world would be a little more understanding and a lot less tense. You know what I'm saying? And a lot less taboo to talk about some of these things. And I'm gonna be honest. Like Thursdays, I do call in sick because I am depressed. I am like, I don't have the mental capacity to deal with things, and I do see that as a sick day. I'm like, bro, trust me, I'm not gonna be productive there. I also don't want to spread what I got, and you know what I'm saying. Like we have those moments where like, you know, someone shows up to work. I don't use myself as an example. Like I show up to work, I'm having a bad day, or I'm having one of those states, and like I'm immobile and I'm not doing work. I'm not being productive. I'm now distracting my coworkers, and I'm talking about things that just they're not relevant to what I need to do. That is my responsibility. So in that sense, utilize your sick time, your PTO, by all means to take care of yourself because it is important. But yes, acknowledging and being aware of who you are in your depression and what your depression looks like. Depression looks different compared to everyone else. That's what my depression looks like. So if you resonate with that, try some of those things. And if it didn't resonate with you, that's totally okay. Everyone's depression looks different. However, there might be some similarities. So in that, utilize your support group, whether that's your friends or your family, coworkers, or calling for some help or resources. Finding a hobby, finding a space where you don't necessarily have to be, you know, you in that sense. And not to say you have to be fake, but allowing yourself to rediscover a version of you. Like in this example, my podcast, I was able to utilize versions of me and skill sets of me, but I didn't quite know that version of me because I've never used them like that. You know, social media marketing, content creating, writing, planning, coordinating. I didn't know what that version of Joel looked like until I did my podcast, and I'm like, oh, and then I tapped into those skill sets. Then I started learning a little more and be like, oh, you know, I actually know how to plan with someone that's coming from different time zones if I were to interview someone in New York. You know what I'm saying? That's just a really quick example. But what I'm saying is find yourself a hobby, a creative space that gives you a break from your day-to-day stuff. You know, I know being parents out there, I can't say I'm a parent quite yet. I'm a dog parent. You gotta give me that. But understanding that there's responsibilities out there that take a lot of your time. But I am huge on setting boundaries. You need to set boundaries. Set those motherfucking boundaries. Hold those motherfucking boundaries and honor those motherfucking boundaries. And the reason for that is because you cannot take care of anyone else if you do not take care of yourself. And that comes with saying no, motherfucker. Say no. Say no to who you need to, how you need to, whenever you need to. Explain yourself. Don't explain yourself. The answer is no. Just hold the line and keep saying no, so you can have more time for your hobbies. So with that being said, there's so much more I could talk on, but I will wrap it up with that. But thank you for asking that question. That question is a great question, something I can relate to personally, but also I know a lot of other people can too. So thank you for having the courage to ask a very thought out question like that. So with that being said, that is our first episode back, baby. Let's run it. So it's been a long time since I've done this outro, but let's see if your boy remembers it. I might have to change it up. I might not. You tell me on Instagram and follow your boy. Tap in, like, and subscribe. You can hear me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. You find me on Deezer, iHeartRadio. I was going to say Radio Shack. RIP, iHeartRadio, a bunch of other stations. But yes, tap into with your boy. Tap the link in the bio. Tap the link in the description. And turn on the notifications whenever you get Joel's Mind podcast. Expect 2 episodes a month. Expect some more transparency and authenticity. Expect... That sounded real Mexican. Expect a business segment. Just expect me to be back. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a good morning. Had a good evening. Happy birthday. Peace. I love you. I already said I love you, so it just sounded weird saying it again. But I'm going to say it again. I love you.